Welcome to the beginning of a new mini-series on covert financial abuse. That means the sort of financial abuse you might not even recognise as abuse, and you might not even know that it's happening to you until way down the line, maybe even after the relationship has ended. So this is the sort of financial abuse that you will have at the hands of a covert narcissist or another toxic personality type. And remember, we're not just talking about abuse by a romantic partner, your spouse or your partner. This can be abuse at the hands of a parent, a sibling, a friend, a colleague, a boss. Before we dive into today's content, just a reminder that you can get hold of a free ebook copy of my latest book, The A to Z of Narcissism and Toxic Relationships. Check out the link below to get yours. In total, we're going to be covering 10 types of hidden financial abuse, and at the end of each of the videos, I'm going to be sharing tips and strategies that are going to help you deal with this type of abuse. Make sure you subscribe so you get notified of the next videos on the topic. The first form of financial abuse that we're going to look at that has impacted many of my clients and myself, and for a very long time I didn't even realise that this was abuse, just as my clients didn't realise at first. So this is when the person, usually a partner, refuses to leave the shared home, whether it's a marital home or just another form of sharing, but they have made it very clear that they consider the relationship to be at an end, or they have engineered situations, they have behaved in a certain way so that for you as the victim, you know that it has become virtually impossible to stay in this home. This form of coercive control impacts on you as the victim financially, emotionally, and physically, of course. It can leave the victim feeling desperate, feeling like they are between a rock and a hard place, with the need to seek a new safe space, probably for children as well as for themselves, and to contemplate the financial burden of this. And quite often, if you have owned the shared home, then that needs to be sold in order for you to be able to move on. But you might find that you need to leave before it's sold, so putting even more financial pressure and an even greater burden on you. So let's unpack the balance of control in this scenario. So first of all, the toxic person, the narcissist, is imposing their will over yours because they are leaving you with this impossible choice. They are imposing their control over you, over where you live, and to a degree, of course, over your finances, because they are pushing you to undertake financial burdens that you're perhaps not in a position to take. Their refusal to move is also putting you in a position where you are forced to make a decision, probably a decision that you don't even want to make, but it has become impossible for you, and therefore you are burdened with these financial strains of trying to figure out how you're going to make this work, how you're going to manage, and no doubt the emotional ties where you are perhaps even considering trying to find a way of making it work, which may be out of feelings that you believe are love, but also could be out of fear and, quite understandably, afraid of this uncertain future and afraid of the financial burdens of being forced out of your home. But the narcissist is making it look like you are abandoning them. So they may present this to the outside world as a pity party for themselves because you have abandoned them. Other people may not understand that you have been pushed and not left with any choice because life in that home with the narcissist became unbearable and perhaps unsafe for you and or for any children involved. The financial strain of being forced out of your home can be immense, and quite often this happens at short notice, so you may be limited. You can't take your time in choosing somewhere that is perhaps in an area that you find desirable, or you may have to take something that is far higher cost of rent than you really can afford. On top of that, you have removal costs, you have the need to find a deposit, then you have to furnish this new place, and whether it is part furnished or fully furnished or not furnished at all, there will always be stuff that you will have to get, and maybe you don't want to return to the shared home, or maybe the narcissist has made it impossible or extremely difficult for you to go back and retrieve belongings. So there are all sorts of things that you are going to perhaps borrow money, max out your credit cards, or simply put yourself under a lot of strain and a lot of extra financial stress and pressure. The emotional and psychological impact of being forced out of your home is also immense. And on top of the direct financial worries, you have the uncertainty of being in a new space, of if there are children involved, helping them get settled, trying to make them feel safe, and of course doing all these things on your own as a single parent can be really draining. Remember that you will have moved from somewhere that, even if the relationship had broken down, or if it wasn't with a romantic partner, perhaps there had been strain and tension between you and the other person, but you were in familiar surroundings, you knew where you were. Now you are faced with uncertainty and you're busy trying to make everything work, and again, if there are children involved, help keep the children feeling safe. So your self-care is likely to be put to the bottom of the pile, and that's something that you really need to pay attention to and make sure that you do look after yourself in order to have the strength to continue dealing and coping with this in the best possible way. Remember that at the end of this video, I'm going to share some tips and strategies that will help you cope with this really difficult situation. But right now, we're going to move on to another topic, which is economic sabotage. And it's not what you necessarily think it is. So what is economic sabotage? It is a collection of deliberate actions on the part of the narcissist or the toxic personality that undermine and destabilize your financial independence through your career progression, through professional relationships. Let's have a look at the different ways that a narcissist can undermine your financial independence and your success. How do they do this? First of all, undermining your professional confidence can take many forms, and this is applicable whether you are an entrepreneur and run your own business, whether you're a leader in an organization, or whether you're in some other form of employment. The narcissist may directly criticize what you're doing. They may mock you, mimic you, or belittle any achievements that you have, so that over time your confidence is eroded and maybe you don't go for that big contract. You just become smaller in your world, and so you restrict your opportunities for financial growth. Deliberately creating scheduling conflicts is another classic, and this can again take many forms. It could mean that the toxic person, the abuser, fakes an emergency, maybe to do with a child or to do with themselves, which calls you out of work at a crucial moment. They may make it difficult for you to attend stuff that is happening out of hours, either through other forms of coercive behaviour or by being absent themselves, which forces you to be back at home to take on any parenting responsibilities. They can just make life difficult for you to attend all the events that you need to in order to get to that next level, in order to grow your business. Withholding or sabotaging work-related resources is another biggie, and this can be anything from accidentally damaging some equipment, maybe it's a laptop, maybe it's spilling something on some important documents, or maybe hiding or destroying important documents. It could be monopolizing the car, or accidentally taking your keys, or taking your wallet or your purse. You may find yourself being isolated from professional networks. Other forms of abuse, such as emotional abuse, accusing you of having unprofessional relationships with people in these networks, so making you want to stay at home to prove to them that you're not going out there for any other purpose. But again, you will find that your world gets smaller and your connections are reduced, and opportunities to grow your business, to grow your own career, are limited in this way. Some of my clients have found that their ex-partner or even a very vindictive sibling have actually contacted professional organisations and made false allegations about them, which have necessitated investigations and have again impacted on their progression within their business or within the organisation. One last trick that you may have come across without even realising it, but by being encouraged to take on unpaid responsibilities, maybe volunteer work, maybe extra responsibilities within the home or within the wider family, can mean that you have less time to grow your business or further your career. Before I go on to sharing some tips and strategies that can help you if you are being financially abused in any of these ways, I want to invite you to share your story in the comments below. It's really important that people who are being financially abused realise that they are not alone, and by sharing our stories we can bring some sort of comfort to people and also share ways of getting out of that financially abusive situation. So, what can you do if you realise that you are being financially abused in any of the ways we've been talking about today? The first step is recognising that what is going on is abusive, is not acceptable, and you are perfectly within your rights to seek ways of rectifying this situation and to seek ways of bettering your situation in the best possible way. Firstly, you need to seek legal advice. If you feel that you are being forced out of your home against your will, then you need to check what your rights are, and there may be scope for you to have legal support in forcing the abuser out of the property and retaining your security in that place. But in any case, you need to know where you stand, and depending on what region you're in, you may be able to access free support by Googling domestic abuse support or financial abuse support. or contacting lawyers, solicitors that may have a free service in the case of domestic abuse. Building support networks is really important, again, to avoid that isolation that empowers the abuser and disempowers you. So by connecting with people that you can trust or professional services, you can bolster your support and know that you're not alone, and listen to other people's advice and their stories that you can then act on if that is something that is in alignment with what you want. But not feeling alone and feeling supported in a network is really crucial. Alongside legal advice, it's important to get financial advice and help with your financial planning. Getting a separate bank account may be a good step, but you need to talk to a financial advisor or planner or an accountant, or seek out free financial advice from a credible, bona fide organisation that can help you. Remember that if you need to do this in secret, then ask somebody you trust to use their phone or their computer in order to access this information and to set up any appointments. You are not alone. Covert forms of financial abuse are far more widespread than we realise. You're not alone. I hope you found this video useful. Don't forget to subscribe, then you'll be notified of the next videos I'm going to put out. Take care until then.